Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Nitro workshop today about building beautiful dashboards using some of the Canyon tools that you have as part of NITRO Studio. Just a couple things before we get started here. It's right at the top of the hour, so I'm going to give people a couple of minutes to join, but I'll go through my spiel while we're waiting for them to jump on. As usual, there is a questions box in the GoToWebinar panel on your screen. Feel free to type in a question at any time to go ahead and pop it in there. If I don't get to it during the webinar, I will look at them after and make sure I get them answered. If there is anything, it shouldn't take, I don't think we're going to take the full hour, so it should have plenty of time for any questions or anything that you have. Any questions they have about the building these dashboards, or really anything else actually. But yeah, so we'll go ahead and get started. I usually don't do this. If you've been to my workshops before, I usually don't do PowerPoints. I typically go straight into the demo portion of it, but today I'm going to do it a little differently. I'm going to have a PowerPoint here, talk about what we're going to cover in the workshop today. So there's 4 different parts of the application of the NITRO Studio apps, the tools that are available to you that allow you to build out dashboards and reporting pages and things that give you metrics in the system. And there's a lot of configuration options. We're not going to go into super specific details today about each one of those. I'm basically going to just show you how to do some basic configurations of those and add them to your page. But those web parts that we're talking about today are going to be the Canyon ListView web part, the Conditional Formatting web part, the tiles and dials, and the NITRO Reports. Now, all these are there in our classic and modern UI. So for those of you on Office 365, it's there in the modern UI as well as classic. For those of you on-prem, we're going to be doing a lot of our initial demos in the classic mode. So you'll, that'll be applicable for you guys. And then if you have a modern dashboard, I'm towards the end of the webinar, I'm going to show you what it looks like to create a modern page and add some web parts to it. So there's a little bit of difference in how you add them, but I'll get to that when we get there. Let's see, there we go. So these are the web parts that we're going to be talking about. These are as they appear on the NITRO Studio screen. We got NITRO Reports at the top, Conditional Formatting, List Views, and Tiles and Dials near the bottom. We pretty much always have these in alpha order. There will be some changes coming to the layout of the NITRO Studio screen in the not too distant future. So keep an eye out for that, but we will keep everything in alphabetical order so that you can find what you need to find. So the first one we're going to talk about today is this list view web part. And a quick overview is that it allows you to add a customizable list view to any web part page. And that's, of course, a modern or a classic UI page. And the difference here between what you get with the Canyon list view versus the SharePoint list view is more options for what to show and when. So the SharePoint list view is pretty static. It's got it's going to show you, all the Power Apps and standard Microsoft links. It's going to show you NITRO forms and custom actions. It's going to show, maybe a bunch of things you don't want to show to users or maybe aren't really relevant in a dashboard. So what we do is we give you settings options within that list view web part to, either hide or show the new form link, hide or show any of the custom actions you might create for that particular list. You can hide or show an export to Excel button and so on. There's a bunch of different options there. We're going to talk about conditional formatting. This is a fairly simple but powerful tool that you can use to create color coding on your list views. And this actually is applicable to both the Canyon list view and the standard SharePoint list view. So you can use it in either of those scenarios. And we use it to highlight columns, and then we can show some KPIs. So there's a few things we can do there. Then we have our tiles and dials. So there's actually 3 elements to this. There's the tiles, which gives you a number count of a view. There's a quick link tile, and then there's a dial where you can show, kind of how far along things are in processes. So it gives you another kind of KPI indicator. And then we'll talk about NITRO Reports. Again, we're not going to go into great detail on how to configure them, but we will talk about how to add them to either the classic view or the modern view of the SharePoint web workspace page, and also show you some of the some settings you have from that interface. All right, so we'll go ahead and get out of that and get straight into the demos because I know that's what you guys like. So we're going to go ahead and modify this page here. So what we're looking at is a sample, or the overview page of our project manager tool. This is one of our out-of-the-box tools. You can see it's already pre-built with some things in it. I was going to refresh that because it has some edit web part stuff there. It's got, it's pre-built some things. So it's got the tiles at the top. It's got some reports in the middle there. And what we're going to do is kind of go through how to add things to it. Now, again, this is a classic UI page. So if you're using the classic UI, this is what it's going to look like, and this is how you're going to add the things to it. Now, the first thing we're going to want to add here is a list view page. So if you add a list view, or a list view web part. So when you add a list view, it's a matter of just going to that list view web parts in the apps section. So we go to list views, pop that open. That's going to open up another tab here where we've already kind of defined some things. Here are your views, maybe list views that you've already created, and you can always add new ones. You can create a new list view. I created this open tasks one for this particular workshop today, and I'm going to show you, kind of walk you through some of the settings, changes I made in that. So the first thing you'll notice at the top, well, you give it a title, but then what you'll see right below it is that you can actually pull this information from pretty much anywhere within your tenant. So we're focusing right now on this particular project management application. We're going to pull some data from within that. But you can see that you can pull information from across different site collections, or different sites within your site collection, or you can actually pull information from different site collections across your tenant. Now, one thing to note here is that it's typically going to be scoped to your tenant. I suppose you could put any URL in here if you wanted to, just as long as whatever logins are accessing that page have access to that resource, it should be fine. But typically it's going to be scoped to your tenant, but there isn't a real limitation that we're providing for that. So in this case, we're going to scope it to our project manager site, and we're going to pull that task list. So we're going to do open tasks. And then you can see you got different views that you can pull up into there. So we can actually have more than one view in that same web part. So we could do pending tasks, and we can do my pending tasks as both being open. There's a few options here for how you show the views. Again, I'm not going to go through that in great detail, but if there's any questions, you can certainly pop them into the questions box. There's a few other settings here for how many page items to show, how many items per page. You can do fixed row heights and things like that. You can hide or show buttons, email button, print button, all that stuff is here. Then you have some other options, whereas the SharePoint list view, you don't get that option to decide how wide that column shows. It's usually based on what data is within that column. This actually gives you some options to set that size of that column on your own. So if you wanted to say, okay, the title column is going to be 150 pixels. The ID column we're going to set to 80 pixels, and that's going to be fixed across the board. So, if you had a big, long, description field, for instance, you might have a whole bunch of data in there, and you want to show that wider than some of the other fields, you can certainly do that, or actually you can scrunch it down to make sure it doesn't go off the page. So you save those settings. Let's see, save them. Now, how do we add this list view web part to that page? So that's the next trick I'm going to show you. And this is going to be pretty consistent across the classic UI options here. So you see each of these web parts, you're going to see it in list view, you'll see it in the tiles and dials, and in the reporting tool, add list view to pages and site. So this add whatever to pages and site is going to be there for all of them. And what you do is you select from your page within your library. So how do you know where it is? Well, that you can get from going to the URL of the page you're editing. So if we go back to our projects overview page here, you can see up here at the top, we're going to follow the URL and say that it's, you can see it's in this NITRO 1 site collection. It's in this project management site, and it's in the workspaces folder. And this is the actual page here, projects overview.aspx. So if we go back here, you can see we selected our workspaces. We selected our projects overview page, and you see there's a number of them here. And then where do you want to put it? So this is going to show you kind of the standard options for that web part page. And if you're not sure where it's going to appear and where the existing web parts are, you can always come to your page, this projects overview page that we're editing, go to edit page, and that's going to show you what, the header section you see up here at the top. You got the left column, middle column, right column, which are going to be options in this ListView Web part, and then the footer section as well. And then how you order it within that header. So you can have multiple web parts within that header. So we can have tiles and dials at the top. We can have another dials. We can have the list view. We're going to add a couple of those things. There's the zone index, and the zone index, the lower the number, the closer to the top it's going to be. So if I put this at 0, it would be right at the top above those tiles are already there. If I put it at 1 or higher, it's going to be below those tiles. And then if you want to, put something in between, let's say, you want this list view to be at the bottom of that header section, you're going to put 99. Then anything in between will just pop in between those two sections. We're going to select our list view definition of open tasks, and then we can give it a name. We'll call it, either pending task or open task, whatever makes sense. I'll just call it open, keep it consistent. Then click add. When you click add, you'll see that there's a success bar at the bottom here. Open tasks has been added. We'll go back to our project's overview page and stop editing. And I actually don't even think I need to refresh it or anything. It's going to just add it right to that page. So let's give it a second to re-render, and there it is, our open tasks. And you can see it got the pending task. That was the view I wanted it to show. And it's got the my pending task, which is the other view I wanted it to show. So both of those things go right in there, and then you can as you make changes to it, you don't have to re-add it to the page. So if you come back into those list view and you say, oh, you know what, I want to add a different view into there. Let's say I want to show, in addition to the pending tasks and my pending tasks, let's go ahead and add a different view in there. So it's got those two that we've added. I'm going to show completed tasks as well, just to have another setting to show it. So we add that, we click save. And one thing, as you're going through and managing these things and editing these things, one thing that's always important to take a look at is this cache. So a lot of this is browser-based stuff, so it's all based on cache. You can go and clear your cache if you want. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it without clearing your browser cache is if you go into your site settings. So if you actually come over here to site settings page, and you go to this Crocanon Nitro site settings right here in site administration. That's going to bring open what's called Nitro configuration. So I actually have that page open right here. And then you'll see that there's this cache site metadata option, and then you can reset the cache. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit reset cache. You'll see that green confirmation shows up in the upper right. Then we come back over here, refresh the page. It's going to ask you to retry, and that's okay. And then, come on, let's go. There, okay, so now you see that view added, completed. And so you can see there are some options here that are completed. So, that's just a little trick. If you're editing things and you don't see the changes right away, that's one way to make sure you can kind of like force the changes rather than waiting for the browser cache to refresh or get the new settings. So the next thing I want to show you here, so that's how you add the list view, and then how you can modify that list view as you make changes, make edits, and revise it to make it look the way you want it to look. One thing you can do here is add some what we call conditional formatting. So now we're going to move into the conditional formatting piece, and you can see on here that there's already some green coloration that we're putting on this due date. You can see that we're past this due date, so it's highlighting that particular due date, and that's based on conditions in the conditional formatting app. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. I have that conditional formatting app open here. Of course, you can always get to it through NITRO Studio apps. Click open conditional formatting, select your list. So in this case, it's the tasks list, and you can see that we're working with this due date column. And you can see our conditions here. So this condition builder, as you probably heard me say before, there's a lot of different options here. You can add groups of conditions, but one thing to note is that the all option is the same as and. So all the conditions have to be met for it to be true. The any condition is the same as the or in Boolean logic. So the or condition, the any condition means either this one or this one is true, and that evaluates as true. And so both of these things being true, it's going to add this particular color to it. Now you could also make that an icon if you want. You click over to that, you can see you have some icon options. You could also upload your own icons to that if you want to. But you can also apply, you can change the color, you can put your own hexadecimal code in here. You could apply it to the single column or to the whole row, and then you can hide or show the column value underlying that coloration, which in this case we probably will want to show it, the column value. They could decide to hide it. Let me save that, and then let's say we wanted to add another conditional formatting setting here, and this is going to be a KPI. So this progress bar option. So we have a, let's see, percent complete. Let's see what's this one. So we have a field in our task list called percent complete, and it's actually just a percentage sign. So we can see it's going to be percent complete, and this should be pretty familiar for you if you've looked at task lists in SharePoint before. That's pretty standard. It's a number field, so your percentage field. And what we're going to do is we're going to do our percent complete right here. So we're pulling all number fields when we do progress bar. Do percent complete. Do our minimum value, maximum value, select our column to show in the view. And one thing just to get this to show, one thing my team is taking a look at, for some reason I had to put this as 1 to show it in the view. So it really should be 100 because it's 100%, but ignore that for now. Our team is looking at that. But so we add that to our settings for conditional formatting for the task list. And again, I think if I just refresh this page, it's not going to show it. I think that's true. Let me just check. Let's give us a moment to refresh. All right, it did show it. Okay, good. So I didn't have to reset the caching. Sometimes you do, sometimes it just takes right away. But you see here now you have its progress bar. So you can see how far along you are in that completion of the task. So based on percentage, and you can do a calculation based on pending hours and projected hours or some other criteria. Whatever you get for your metric, you can put some, put that KPI on there. No, it could be, it doesn't have to be percentage. It could be some other number. If you're over a certain number, whatever it might be, you can highlight things or however you want to do it. But just gives you a way to kind of see the progress of what's going on. We could also add a icon here to the task status to give it a little more, a little more visual, make them a little more visually appealing. So we do see task status, add condition. I'm just going to do a very real simple one. Task status is equal to in progress, and then I'm going to do a quick icon of let's see, let's do flag a green flag or something like that. A column value we're going to leave on there. So column value is going to be to the right of the icon, and then I'll select the task status here, save. Go back to our project's overview page. Gives a second to refresh. All right. And you see I got that flag there next to the in progress tasks. So that gives you a way to kind of flag things on the list view. And so what we've been talking about so far is a lot of what you can do with the list view itself within a dashboard. So you can add this, it could be a standalone page, it could be within a dashboard like you're seeing here. Either way, but there's a lot of options here within the list view itself to kind of make it, give you some metrics and give you some idea what's happening. Now let's talk about some of the other things that are you can add to this page. So the tiles at the top. So this tiles at the top here is, again, it's something we've pre-configured in our project manager tool. And we've added it through the same kind of methodology that we just talked about with the list view. So if you come to tiles and dials, again, you can get to that through NITRO Studio, tiles and dials. Bring up your, there's no list to choose from because you have multiple lists involved in this situation. So you have managed tiles. So this, homepage tiles, if I open that up, just kind of quickly show you some of the options you have here. So here are the 3 tiles that we're talking about: active projects, pending milestones, pending tasks. You can see that kind of matches up with what we're talking about over here. And you can make some edits to these if you want, and you can or you can create new tiles. There's some settings in here. Again, you have the option to choose from the current site collection, choose from across your site collections, using the specify site URL. So it gives you a way to, kind of gives you a way to roll up data into one view. And that's especially important if you're using the, if you're using kind of more of a flat methodology where you have each of your sites is a different site collection, which is fine. That's the recommended Microsoft way. What we want to do is give you a way to bring that information into one space. So you can specify that site URL and bring in that list data and show it in tile on one page that's separate from the other sites. Now you can select this site, we're going to do that, select your list and view, and then you can navigate back out to it. So you can create a navigation link, and then you can add some colors to it. So we're going to leave this alone, but that's basically where all that information, where all that configuration is coming from here. You can see it's kind of a slightly bluish color at the top, and this black text at the bottom. Now, if we wanted to change that, let's say we wanted to change this blue, and I'm actually going to copy this and save it so we can revert back. And notepads are your friend when you're configuring things, because it's really nice to save, a nice way to save things. So if we want to change this, actually I'm going to change the background color, as a matter of fact. I'm going to change it to kind of a reddish-ish color, pinkish color, just to highlight what it looks like. So save. And it should be able to just refresh this, I believe. Yep, see, it's got that header color now. And the nice thing about it too is if you come back to this homepage tiles settings page, we can go back to our active projects tab. We can take that same hexadecimal code, put it here. Now I'll make the whole thing. They'll make the whole thing red, that pinkish color. So you can play around with those settings as you go through this, and you can see it's incremental. It's it's repetitive. You kind of go through, make these incremental changes, see how they look, come back to it, refresh it. And that's the nice thing about it is any of these changes can very easily be backed out. We're just talking about UI stuff. We're not talking about data. We're not talking about messing with that kind of side of things. It's all about the UI of how you show the data, how you show things, and all of its this whole page can be deleted. Everything's going to be there. We can just create it from scratch. So we got this active projects now. It's highlighted in pink if you want, and it gives you a way to show that. So, but you can easily go back into your. Actually, hang on, click the wrong one. Your homepage tiles. Now let's back out those changes. So just go back to FF. Yeah, there you go. There you go, back to normal. All right, and in a similar way, you can actually come back, you can come over to this edit page, and that's one thing you guys are probably interested in is how do you remove these web parts? So we add them from the interface from the settings page over here, like tiles and dials and list views. But actually, if you want to remove them, you just go to the page, edit the page, and you can delete the web part. That's it. Now it's gone. So really easy to add something, really easy to remove it. So you can feel free to play around with it and do the iterative kind of back and forth of what it should, kind of play around with what it can look like. Okay, so we can also do the same thing, tiles. We can do the same thing with dials. We can configure a dial. Again, we can add it to the tile to a page. So again, we can go to our, we know it's in workspaces. We know we're talking about the project's overview page. One thing I want to point out here too is if you're looking at different style of page, this has got the header, left column, middle column, etc. There are other types of pages, of course, that web part pages that you have. So you can see this home page has a slightly different layout: header, top row, center left, center column, blah, blah, blah. So you can have, different type of page there. So it just depends on the type of page as to what options you get in this placement section. And then again, zone is basically how far up or down it is. And so if we go to this project's overview page, we want to add this dial again. So one thing to note when you're in this particular web part, make sure you know which one you're adding, either a tile, dial, or a link tile. Tasks, we're going to add that to the header, zone 0. We've got our confirmation at the bottom. Refresh. And there it is right at the top. Because I used zone index 0, it appeared right at the top. If I'd done 1, 2, 3, or anything above, it would have appeared below. So that gives you a way to control where it shows on the page. All right, so that's how you add that, tile, dial, web part as, reports is going to be pretty much the same. Let me go ahead and delete this one so we can get back to 0. So if we go to, see if we go to our reporting tool, you can see you have your reports. Again, I'm not going to go through those in great detail, but you have that add reports to pages and site. Same idea. I'm not going to belabor it because I think you guys get it. If you have any questions on that, certainly let me know. But that's kind of where we're coming from with those getting those pages on there. Now that's all in the classic UI. And so I'm going to show you the modern UI in just a moment. So let me jump over to that and kind of go through the modern UI. So what we can do with the modern UI is, we could have done this with the classic UI too, but you can go and add a page to your site. So this is Office 365, so it's going to give me the modern UI by default. So we have projects dashboard, and I'll call it June 10, 2020. And then you have, if you ever worked with modern pages, they're really easy to work with. I think a lot easier to work with than classic. So I'm sorry if you're on-prem, guys. Modern is a lot easier to deal with. Then you just hit this plus button here. And this is going to be the big difference between the classic UI and the modern UI. You add them directly from the page here versus going to the settings area and adding them on the classic UI. So in the modern UI, you come here, you add a web part. There's a bunch of Crow web parts you should have deployed as part of the NITRO activation. All these here, you can go and type Crow Canyon. You can see the ones that we provided. Here's your dials, here's your link tiles, list view, all the ones we were just looking at are all here. So if we want to go and add a tiles web part, we can do that. We go to the edit section. If we want to modify what tiles groups are available, there's a link right here to do that. So if I click that, it's going to open a new page. And that's going to take me right back to the same tiles and dials page that we have over here. Same interface, just appearing in the modern versus the classic. And we can even use that same group, so that homepage tiles we were just working with. Close out that, publish, refresh, and let's give it a second to come up. And there it is. So same tiles right there that we have on the classic, right there in the modern. Again, edit page, add a web part right below, kind of same thing we did before, do our list view. Where's the list view? Crow Canyon. Edit. Now again, so this is where it's going to get a little interesting because you can, the list view is a little more freeform configurable. The web URL. So the web URL that we're going to pull in here is going to be up through the site of the site that we're working with. So project management is the site we're working with. Copy and come over here, web URL. Now it's going to give me a list of lists and choose tasks. Open tasks. Again, you can choose your list view. So we could do pending. Which ones did I choose before? Pending and my pending and completed. So the same ones we had before we can add here. And again, you have a lot of those options of how many to show, how many per limit, how many items to show on the page, how many items to pull back in total, fixed row heights, hide or show custom actions, hide or show conditional formatting, hide or show, all those kinds of things we were just looking at. We go ahead and add that. You don't have to save anything. It kind of automatically saves, and then we hit republish, and then we just refresh it. Like that. And you see added, didn't turn off all the options. There's a few different options here. That's okay. We got our pending tasks over here. And one thing you'll notice, all that conditional formatting work we did for the classic list view, it's right here. It appears. It's going to come right back into it in the modern. So, that's going to be a consistent thing across either your classic or modern UI. So you see both of all those settings, all those things are available in both options. So again, if we can edit this page, we can, if we want to add those reports that we were, just seeing on the other page, it says section like this. See, add a new section. So this gives you an option to do a layout, and we can actually do a layout pretty similar to what we're doing on the classic page. The three columns here. Come back over here. We can go and add our reports. So report Crow Canyon. That's the one we want to look at. Here, edit web part, and then you can choose the report. So in this case, projects by status. So if we want to match it up to be the same, we do projects by status, projects by status, projects by status. All these places. I don't know why I hide the header. I'm going to show it. Refresh. And there you go. Let's see, just scroll down where it is. Yep, there it is. So I know you can also get rid of this header up here for the modern UI. That's also something you can do. But this gives you the tools you need to add the reports, add list views, add these tiles, add dials to your page, so you can have a one-stop shop. You can have information from across not just this one site collection or site. It could be across multiple sites, multiple site collections. You can have kind of a project health, or if you have different projects, each project has its own site collection. You have each one has its own task list. You can roll that all up into one, kind of one view here to give you everything you need in one place to see what's happening. So that's pretty much the extent of what I wanted to cover today. I want to see now, are there any questions on what we've covered so far? Is there anything that I have, haven't shown that would anyone be interested in taking a look at? Let's keep my eye on the question box here. Okay, looks like we're pretty good there. Let's give another second or two for anyone to pop in there. All right, so feel free to pop in your question anytime. Still got a couple minutes here to go. What I'm going to do now is just kind of go through upcoming webinars, what we have coming up in the near future, and some of the cool things we're doing here at Crow Canyon. So let's pop on our Crow Canyon page. And we have our webinars link under resources and webinars. And you see tomorrow we have this great webinar talking about HR request management in Microsoft Teams. So we've been doing a lot of work with bots in recent weeks, recent months. We have this whole bot interface, interactive bot interface. Again, this is going to be more specific to the Teams Office 365 world. But any group that's using Teams, whether it's it could be on-prem and using Teams too, I suppose. Anyone using Teams, this would be of interest for you to see how a bot can help you manage your request processes, either through HR. We also, you can use those same concepts across IT, facilities, any other requests type of application. Certainly can be displayed there. So Scott or Steve is going to be doing that webinar tomorrow at the same time, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. So that will be, a great introduction to what we've been doing with bots, how they can help you, and how they can help you save time, and you can have your staff focus on things a little more efficiently. Then we're going to be talking about managing projects in Office 365. So that's going to be another webinar we're doing about talking back to this project manager I was just going through, that we're going to have a more deep dive into that tool specifically. So if there's any project management needs at your organization, you're looking for a really, simple but powerful tool to get those projects organized and track those tasks and make sure there's follow-up. This tool is really a great space for you. I'm showing you how you can build out those dashboards and KPIs, right within that project manager tool. You can see we were able to do those things within, the time span we had today, about half hour. So you can see you can add a lot of power into that project management tool very quickly, and really any of the tools we have, very quickly you can add that type of power into it to get a sense of what's happening, what's going on. But that project management tool is really powerful, really useful for project management, I find. Yeah, that's what we have coming up. I don't know if we have, I can't recall if we've scheduled our next workshop yet. Let me just check to see if we have it on there. No, we haven't scheduled our next workshop yet, but we'll keep an eye on this page for that, our NITRO Studio workshops page. So we'll be coming out with another one for July. But with that, I probably won't be talking to you before the 4th of July holiday for the U.S. Citizens. Happy 4th of July when that comes. And we'll be, talking to you again soon. So again, thank you everyone for joining today. Really appreciate it. And if you have any questions, go ahead and shoot us an email, shoot us a note. Happy to engage and work with you guys. But give you back the rest of your time now, and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.